Alright guys, so welcome to my channel. This is something new for me. I feel a little bit nervous, but it is what it is. So today we're gonna talk about me finding out that I have ulcers, right? So I think I found out a little bit over a month ago, if I'm not mistaken. It's been like a month and a week already. And it hasn't been that bad, right? I'm just thankful that it wasn't anything worse, that it's something that's curable. So how did I find out, right? So I never really had like any pains in my stomach. I never like had like, oh my gosh, my stomach hurts or anything like that. I just found out by basically going to the restroom, and I'll just leave it at that. You guys can picture the rest, right? So I remember this one time I played basketball, and I went to the restroom after, like, when I got home, and so like the next day, that's when I told my mom that we need to go to the doctor, right? So we go to the doctor literally the next day in the morning, and so I told her like my symptoms. I'm like, I don't really have that many pains, like, however, like when I use the restroom, so and so, right? So the doctor tells me, okay, so you either have ulcers, right, or you have like inflamed digestive tract. I forgot the right terminology for it. It was something weird, right? So my hope was that it wasn't ulcers. And then so she gives me like 3 pills, and she said, you're gonna take these pills for 3 days, and if in 3 days, you're gonna take these 3 pills for 2 weeks. So then she said, in 2 weeks your symptoms continue, then we're gonna have to stick a camera down your mouth and see what's going on in your stomach. And I did not want that, because if you guys know me, I'm very like I hate blood, I hate needles, like I'll faint, right? So I started taking the medication, the 3 pills a day, and I also started changing my diet a little bit. She said I couldn't eat anything spicy, anything greasy, anything with lactose. It had to be gluten-free. And I work at Chick-fil-A, so that made it hard for me, because basically every day I would eat at Chick-fil-A, which is not good for my stomach at the moment, right? So I basically had to start bringing my own lunch to Chick-fil-A, and I give thanks to my mom for that. She's an amazing cook. So about a week, it was like a week and a half into the medication, that actually my symptoms, like the little pain that I had in my stomach, actually started getting worse. And that's when I told my mom, I was like, Mom, like I feel like I'm just getting worse, like I don't feel like I'm getting better. So she calls the doctor. I remember I was getting ready for work, and she calls the doctor, because I told her as soon as I woke up, and she calls the doctor. I get down for breakfast, and my mom tells me, she said, the doctor wants for us to go tomorrow so they can put the camera down your throat and see what's in your stomach. And at this moment I was frustrated. I didn't want to show it with my mom or anything, but I was really frustrated because I'm like super nervous with anything, like with the hospitals and stuff like that. Like I just get like this weird eerie vibe, right? So remember at work I was like super like sad, and I was just down, and like people were asking me, like my coworkers were like, what's wrong? And I was just telling them like, tomorrow they're gonna stick a camera down my throat. I was super nervous for it or whatnot. And so I get home from work, I sleep, the next day comes around, I wake up, and I couldn't eat anything. Like I had to be like the day prior to it, the day prior to it at 7 p.m. that had to be my last meal, right? So I ate like at 6, and then I go to the doctors, and I'm like super nervous, but I'm like trying to act cool. I'm like super nervous, but I'm like trying to act chill, to not like worry my parents or anything. And basically they ask for my information, they ask if I'm currently working somewhere, and whatnot. We fill everything out, and then they put us in this room, right, with the bed. It was like basically like a hospital room. They put us in this room with the bed, and then I'm basically laying down on the bed on my phone, just chilling. My mom was on her phone just looking at stuff, and my dad was just sitting there. And it was about like 20 minutes in where we were just waiting in the room, and then this male nurse comes in. He gives me a robe, and he's like, okay, you're gonna have to take everything off, including your underwear and socks, everything, and you're gonna have to wear this. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is great. And I remember the room was really cold, so I go to the little restroom. I take everything off except for my socks because it was cold. I was like, I ain't taking my socks off. So I put the robe on, and like the robe had like a big opening. You guys have seen it in movies, you know, like the hospital robes, where it has like a split down the back, and then it has like on the sides, it has like a big opening. So like if you're walking fast, it's gonna open up and you're gonna see everything. So like I couldn't tie it because it was in the back. So I'm like walking out, like, because my parents were in the room, and I was like, Dad, can you help me tie it real quick? So he ties it for me, and I get in the bed, and then I put the blanket on me. And then after like 10 minutes, the same nurse comes in, and he says that he's gonna have to stick a needle in my wrist here, and it was like the little, I don't know if they call it the IV, I don't know, I may be tripping, but it's like the little bag of liquid they put, and the needle was like this big, man, and y'all already know, like, I faint, I don't like seeing blood, like I can't take any of that, so I'm like over here like laying in the bed, like looking away, trying to like, you know, like not look at it, and like I just looked at just a little bit, I just went like that, and I looked and I saw the guy with the huge needle, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I was like, this isn't gonna be good. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna try to stick it in, please stay still. And I was like super nervous, I got like pale, and like he stuck it in, right, and like I could feel it moving around, and he's like, I can't find the vein, man, like give me a second. And like I'm like over here like trying not to faint. I was like, okay, man, like do your thing. And I wasn't talking, to be honest. I was just like kind of like taking it, you know. And he was like, he couldn't find my vein because I don't know how he could not find my vein, right? So he's like, okay, we're gonna have to try in the other arm. So finally he gets it, and I'm all set to go, right? So I'm there just chilling on my phone, and then three more nurses come in the room, and they're basically explaining how it's gonna go. They said they're gonna take me to this other room, and they're gonna basically put me to sleep, and that's how we're gonna go about that. And I'm so thankful that they let me keep my socks on, because technically I was supposed to take them off, but the nurse said it was fine, which I'm so thankful because it was freezing in there. So I'm like laying in bed, right, and then they come in. It's this other nurse comes in with the wheelchair, and he tells me, okay, we're gonna move you from this room to another room, get in this wheelchair. So I'm like trying to move really slow because like I don't want anything to show, because you know the robe. And I'm like, so I sit down, and then they wrap me like in this blanket. So I was basically like in a little cocoon, which made it like nice for me because I was worried about people seeing, like, you know. And they take me to this other room, and it was me, the guy that was pushing me in the wheelchair, and this other nurse. And they were talking about how one of them had been awake for like 18 hours at the hospital, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was getting like worried. I was like, I hope these people know what they're doing, because you know they're sleepy. So then they lead me to the other room. So the two male nurses dropped me off, and at this time it was just three female. I want to say it was two female nurses and one female doctor, I believe. And I get on the bed. They told me to lay like sideways, and they put the blanket over me, and then they told me that they basically explained once again what they're gonna do. And one of the nurses was like, I'm gonna spray this thing in your mouth. It's basically gonna numb your throat. It's gonna taste really bad, but you know I have to do it. So they spray it, and it wasn't too bad, but it was pretty bad at the same time. And I was just like kind of like grossed out, whatever. And then they put like this little circular thing. It was like I don't know how to explain it. It was like this little circular thing that basically it held my mouth open because they were gonna put me to sleep. So it basically held my mouth open so they were able to like stick the camera down my mouth. And so I'm like laying sideways. I have this thing in my mouth, you know, and like I have this like horrible taste. And I'm like, and then I'm like looking at the doctor because the doctor was right here in front of me. She was getting her stuff ready. And then like the female nurse was behind me. She said, okay, I'm gonna start putting the anesthesia in you. You're gonna get really sleepy. And I was like, okay, bet, whatever. So I'm like waiting for it to kick in. And the last thing I remember, like, I saw the doctor and like I saw her glove because like she was getting like close to like my mouth and stuff. And like I just remember seeing her, like her hand was like if it was underwater. It was like wavy. And then after that, I don't remember nothing, right? Like I was knocked out. And then it almost felt like if I didn't even go to sleep, because like I remember seeing that, and then like the next thing I remember was like almost instant for me, was them saying like, okay, open your mouth. And I was like, oh my gosh, like are they about to stick the camera in me? What's going on? And they actually just took the little piece off, and they were like, okay, everything went well. We're just gonna leave you here for like 15 minutes just so that you can get back on the wheelchair, and we can transfer you to the other room. And I was like, I wasn't able to speak because I was just like in shock, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that quick? Like it felt like a second, right? I guess that's how anesthesia works, I don't know. And so I was like very sleepy, like I wasn't like tripping or anything, but I was just very like sleepy, like very drained. And after like 10-15 minutes passed, the female nurse was like, okay, can you get up? And I was like, yeah, I can get up, right? I didn't say that, but that's what I thought. And I was like, yeah. So like I get up quick, right? You know, like how you normally get out of bed. And then like it just hit me, like it was like everything was in slow motion. I was like, whoa. And she was like, yeah, be careful. So I'm like, I had to slow everything down. So I get on the wheelchair, you know, and then they take me back to the room with my parents. And at this point in time, I didn't know if they were like, I didn't know what if I had ulcers or not. They just told me that everything went well, but I didn't know what that meant. Like maybe everything just went well with like the camera, you know, everything. I don't know. So I get to the room and my mom is the one that told me. She's like, hey, they actually just found 3 small ulcers in your stomach, but other than that, everything's good. And I was like, I felt relieved, you know, because I was like, it could have been something way worse. It could have been nothing, you know, but it was 3 small ulcers. So they put me back in the bed and they told me, you're gonna rest here for 30 minutes and then we're gonna give you something to eat, and after you eat, we're gonna wait like about 40 minutes, and if you don't like throw it up, if you don't, we'll see how your body reacts to it, and if everything is fine, then you're good to go home. So I'm like waiting there. They called the little phone next to my bed and I answer, and I was like, what would you like to eat? They gave me 3 options. It was like one of them was like a sandwich, the other one was like a soup, and the other one was tacos, and of course I went with tacos. So I choose the tacos, and then when they brought it, it was actually pretty good, you know. I thought hospital food wasn't gonna be that great, but it was pretty decent. So I ate it. I was actually pretty hungry. So I finished my food, you know, 30 minutes passed by and everything's good. But I swear I was walking like super slow because like I was eating super slow because, you know, like the medication I had. So basically after that, the doctor came in and she explained what I had. She said that I had 3 small ulcers, that's what was causing the bleeding in my stomach, and that I was gonna have to take medication. She told me I have to take medication for a whole year. We're gonna see if it's gonna be necessary. So right now I'm on the medication for a month, but the medication isn't the bad part. The bad part is my diet, right? Because I basically can't eat at any restaurants. The only food I can eat basically for the most part is like homemade food, right? But it has to be gluten-free, lactose-free. I can't be anything greasy. I can't have any type of condiment. So like if I choose to eat chicken or like beef or something like that, like it has to be like chicken and that's it. Like literally chicken out of the little package, put it on the stove, you know, cook it, and that's it. Like I can't have anything on it. The only fruits I can eat are apples, bananas, and I believe that's it. Those are like the only 2 fruits I can eat. Like I can't eat anything citrusy. The only cereal I can eat is like Cheerios, and then like I can't eat basically any candy. So I honestly think I'm getting used to the diet. It's not too bad, you know. As long as I can eat, I'm happy. Other than that, in the next 5 months, we're gonna go back. They're gonna stick the camera again down in my mouth and see if they're healing. So far, I feel like it's getting better. I haven't had any like stomach aches or anything like that. And yeah, that's my story of how I found out that I have ulcers and the process of me going through the diet.